I must say that this is sad. This is awful. This is tragic news. And it's not something that I planned on reporting on and bringing to you, as I was literally in the middle of wrapping up a video edit of a video that I was working on this morning. And I got to the point where I was talking about how the left continues to push and promote and encourage violence. Okay. And I needed to jump on X to, I was working on this video right here. And I needed to jump on X to get a clip to share with you, a clip that I'm not even sure that I can really show you without YouTube getting upset about it. And the first thing that pops up on the feed is this from about an hour ago. Multiple news agencies reporting a sniper is on a roof. Multiple victims at the ICE detention facility in Dallas. Avoid the area and pray for the victims. This before failed governor shared by Benny Johnson. Thank you, Benny Johnson. Thank you, Benny Johnson, for all you do. Failed governor Gavin Newsom went on Stephen Colbert's failed show and called President Trump a son of a bitch.
This guy is flooding the zone. He's dominating the narratives. Facts don't seem to matter. And Democrats, frankly, have had a difficult time pushing back. And Democrats feel that, times there's sort of this weakness that dominates our brand and our party. And I think what people appreciate is that we're willing to fight, and not only fight symbolically by having a little bit fun, but fight substantively. We have 41 lawsuits against this son of a bitch. We're pushing back and we're winning. And we're filling a void on a lot of issues. I'm out here for Climate Week. California is the tentpole in terms of climate policy in this country. As he walks away from Paris, he walks away from leadership, moral authority around the rest of the world. California's trying to assert itself on health policy. Same thing. We created this West Coast Collaborative. We're not going to listen to this guy. We're not going to listen to him trying to pronounce acetaminophen, or we're not going to sit there, listen to all that. No one trusts the guy.
This language, this rhetoric, this code that, triggers and ignites the violence of the left. This is California. This is typical California. But here's the deal, folks. Listen to this one. This one, mind-blowing. The night before Charlie Kirk was murdered, Erica Kirk called a friend to come over to their house to pray for Charlie after feminist website Jezebel paid witches on Etsy to curse him. You can't make this stuff up, folks. You cannot make this stuff up.
And while their article about all of this it was published on Monday, September 8th, it makes clear that the writer contracted for the curse in late August. She says she wanted it to line up with the new moon in Virgo, which this year meant August 23rd. That tracks because she points out in the piece that by August 24th, she was waiting impatiently for results. The witch, they reveal, promised on August 23rd that, quote, you will see the first results within 2 to 3 weeks. This was 18 days before Charlie was killed. Not satisfied with this curse, the amped up one, alone, Jezebel reached out to a, quote, third witch, Priestess Lilin. Jezebel opined, if enough people cursed a single person, would the results be stronger? Quote, when I asked her if she'd noticed more political figures being targeted these days, she said yes. The next day, Lilin sent the Jezebel writer proof of the hex she had cast, quote, a photograph in flames, the edges slowly curling inward, engulfing Charlie's ridiculous, scrunched up little face. She whispered, I imagine, writes the Jezebel reporter, trust the unseen. Chills, writes Jezebel. Sunday, August 24th passed, writes the author, and nothing. Monday, August 25th, still nothing. Tuesday, August 26th, nothing. But then she writes, she reminded herself, this is witchcraft, not Amazon. The forces operate on their own schedule. The Jezebel writer ends the piece as follows. So, did my Etsy curses work? Time will tell. The forces move in mysterious ways. And as the priestess Lilin reminded me, spell work is a collaboration between the caster, the client, and the universe itself. For now, we can only trust in the timing of the great unknown. To you, Mr. Kirk, may the rash come swiftly. 2.5 weeks after those curses were requested and cast, 2 days after Jezebel published that article, Charlie was killed by an assassin's bullet. I know what you're thinking. This is a bullshit Etsy curse. Why are we spending time on this? I'm going to get to that in a minute. Stay with me for now. After the shooting, Jezebel took down the article, quote, on the recommendation of our lawyers. They underscored that the piece was meant to be humorous, intended as satire, and that they made clear they wished Charlie, quote, no physical harm, which is not the full story now, is it? At the same time, they said of the article, quote, we stand by every word, which means they did want him cursed. They wanted everyone to hate him. They wanted it to be powerful, and they wanted Charlie, quote, punished for years of regressive rhetoric. They also made clear that taking down the article was, quote, driven by an abundance of caution for our staff. In other words, they were worried about violence against them by Charlie Kirk supporters. They also, they wrote, wished, quote, to avoid the piece being misused in a tense and volatile environment. There was not, they made clear, any change in their editorial and judgment. In fact, they emphasized, quote, we may republish at a later date. They then rambled on about the country's gun problem and the heated political divide in the country and free speech, noting they do not actually condone political violence. Now, again, you may be saying to yourself, why are we talking about Etsy curses? None of this is real. Well, two things. First of all, Christians are opposed to casting spells or trying to contact the spirit world, not only because they believe there's only one God, but because they acknowledge the existence of the devil and evil spirits. Here is Father Mike Schmidt. He was on the day Charlie died, helping us through that as well. But he came on our show first time a couple of years ago, and here he is discussing this very subject.
The motivation behind the Ouija board is actually something where I'm trying to contact spirits. And someone could say, well, I'm trying to contact nice spirits or good spirits. And the unfortunate thing we know about is that, yes, when God created angels, he created angels. They're good. They're beautiful. They're in harmony with him. But also we know that a number of those said no to God. A person who's reasonable would say, but I'm just playing. And I would say, I completely understand that. And then I would say, at the same time, you remember the movie The Exorcist?
Of course.
Yeah. How can you forget it? So that story is based off of two true stories. And one of the true stories is, I believe, about, if I can get the details right, is about a young man who was at, kind of like a birthday party, some kind of celebration of some sort with kids. And they just busted out the Ouija board and just played for fun. But that was an entry point for what ultimately became a possession.
In other words, you're playing with fire, messing with this stuff. There actually are demons in this world. Calling up the spirit world, in particular the devil's spirit world, can actually have real world consequences. It's not something to mess with. Many Christians believe this. This is dangerous. It's not a game. It's literally evil. Second, this is what I really want you all and the people at Jezebel and Etsy to know. Erica and Charlie Kirk heard about these curses, and that news genuinely rattled Erica in particular. She knew Christian teaching on the subject. She loved Charlie, absolutely, and she was scared when she heard of the curses Jezebel had called up. So much so that she and Charlie contacted a friend who I believe she said was a Catholic priest, but definitely a friend, and asked him to come over and pray with them over Charlie the night before he was murdered. She eventually worked it through, and so did Charlie. That, as she later told me, weapons will form but not prosper. That Satan and those witches have no power. Of course, God's will is the one that matters, and his blessing over Charlie was real and palpable. All you had to do was spend time with Charlie to know that. But why torture a family like this? A Christian, believing family. Why do this vile thing to a young couple, parents to two babies, living in accordance with the gospel, deeply in love, yes, political, but doing nothing other than speaking publicly about their views and their desires to make other people's lives better. Who would do such a vile thing? Jezebel, that's who. And unbelievably, Etsy.
Temple reports breaking. 3 people shot by a sniper and in critical condition at an ICE facility. Sniper reportedly shot himself when approached by officers. We're not going to get into any speculation on who the sniper is, what he looks like, or political party that, he aligns with. We'll let the media do that. We'll let the media attempt to lie to us about that. But what we will do is point out that this is driven by the likes of Gavin Newsom and Democrats and the progressive liberal woke mind virus that doesn't want conversation or discourse or, debate. They want death. They say that Charlie Kirk was hateful, and he said he's preached and spewed hate. No, Charlie Kirk only said things that they hated to hear. Okay. And as we can see, taking matters into their own hands and getting extremely violent on the rooftop at an ICE facility. Well, this brings to mind a clip that a video I saw yesterday with Officer Brandon Tatum and what could possibly come next. Let me know what you guys think. Thoughts and prayers to the folks over in Dallas. I hope everybody's okay.
But I think a lot of people that I know in Israel, including myself and others that are staunch Zionists, think that he is prolonging the war too long and is causing too much damage and irreversible reputational damage. He should have ended it sooner, and he should have went harder. In America, if we had faced such brutality, rape, people getting their heads cut off. I saw videos of people getting their heads cut off. We would have been swift. Within 48 hours, we would have caused the most damage that you've ever seen to a country in world history. And Netanyahu, for whatever reason, is capitulating, in my personal opinion, to his own personal image, and that he don't want to look bad. He don't want to be shamed. He don't want people to say that he's committing a genocide. So he's playing in the middle for too long. 2 years of this war is too much. He should have eliminated Hamas immediately, and he should not worry about the naysayers. He's darned if he do, he's darned if he don't. He is not committing a genocide in Gaza. I think that's disingenuous at best, because no one committing a genocide will be giving food or aid to a people that they're trying to kill. They would not be sending leaflets and advising people of buildings that they're going to tear down. The population has grown in Gaza from 1948 all the way up until today. 500,000 they started with. They're at 2 million at this point. When did the genocide start? There is no genocide. People can argue the tactics that Netanyahu is displaying in Gaza, but you cannot be superfluous and add these arguments that seems to, in my opinion, be anti-Semitic in many ways. It's not, these people are terrorists, and not the Gazan people, the regular everyday individual, the terrorist group that came into a country and attempted to commit a genocide against Israel. They would have committed a genocide against Israel to a large proportion if it wasn't for the IDF and if it wasn't for the Iron Dome. Let's not forget, they shot 4,000 missiles into Israel. They tried to kill everybody. The IDF is going in strategically. I wish that people had not died. I wish that they could end the war so there's no suffering. I wish that Hamas wasn't stealing food. The UN confirmed that 96% of all the aid is being looted. I wish that Hamas wasn't doing those things. I wish that Hamas would take the approach of Israel, which means when the rockets go flying into Israel, the people go into bomb shelters. When rockets go flying into Gaza, the terrorists go into bomb shelters, and they make their people stay above ground to be the blunt force of what they receive in a war that they started for no reason. Hamas knew they could never beat the IDF in Israel. Why did they start the war? Why did they initiate conflict? Why did they rape people and do things like that and videotape it?